Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
The Houston Texans went from the number 2 pick to the AFC South champs. How did DeMeco Ryans turn this team around so fast? Also, the Bills and the Dolphins fought for the AFC East title, and the Green Bay Packers have their man in Jordan Love. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. I'm Peter Bukowski, starting your day with the can't-miss stories and biggest debates in sports. You're Locked On Sports Today.
Searching all major sports. Found.
Let's start with the biggest story.
A year ago at this time, the Houston Texans were preparing for which quarterback they were going to take with the number 2 overall pick. Now, safe to say, they got their guy. CJ Stroud was unbelievable in a do-or-die game on Saturday night. A 10-7 Houston Texans season under first-year coach DeMeco Ryans, a 23-19 win on the road against the Indianapolis Colts to get into the postseason. Cody Davis from Locked On Texans joins me now. And Cody, no, don't shake your head. This really happened. It is a true thing. They are going to the playoffs. Why has this left everyone in Houston so speechless?
Because no one expected this. Look, my co-host John Hickman might have been the only one that I could recall playing around with the idea of the Texans not just getting to the playoffs, but winning the division. But it was one of them situations where if everything went right, and me personally at the start of the season, I was like, look, a successful season for the Houston Texans in 2023 will be 6 wins. We see growth, potential, and development throughout the year. And it made sense because first-year head coach, first-year offensive play caller, rookie quarterback, a lot of new pieces around the team. You know, the guys that were talented, you can see some potential there, but it's like, okay, can they really help this team get to that point? But Peter, not only did everything that I just said, just exceeded the expectation. Nothing was perfect for this team. Yeah. They won, I think, 7 or 8 one-score games, and look how many injuries that they had to overcome. Nothing was perfect about the Texans in 2023, but yet here we are, and they are AFC Divisional South champions, about to host a playoff game against the Cleveland Browns. And not only that, it's a possibility where they can actually make the divisional round. So it's just like, what is going on?
I think it is a testament to what a young quarterback can do for your organization, because and for as much as I think DeMeco Ryans deserves a ton of credit for what has happened this season culturally, that is vital, right, to what you're building there. But you could not have predicted CJ Stroud would look like this. One of the best rookie seasons we have ever seen, and gives you a chance, as you mentioned, to go out and win a playoff game here. Just put into perspective what this pick and what this player has been for this Houston team in this turnaround.
Well, everybody already knows, the story of how the Houston Texans got here. Go all the way back to when they blew that 24-0 lead against Kansas City. And of course, in my opinion, one of the
worst. They might get a rematch with the Chiefs in the second round too.
I hope so. I actually want that, Peter. You're talking about a full circle moment. But, so everybody knows the story, and then, the Texans have to go through this terrible rebuild. In my opinion, one of the worst rebuilds probably in sports. But the thing with CJ throughout the whole entire year, just being around him almost every single day and watching him grow from afar. And I've been around CJ almost every single day since the start of rookie mini camp. And the one thing that I started catching on to, and this probably been the best attribute that I've loved most about CJ, is the fact that he doesn't make the same mistake twice. I remember rookie mini camp. He did not look good in practice. And it was one of those situations where we was like, okay, he's a rookie. He's going to learn. Maybe you start the season with Davis Mills for those first couple of weeks. Give him a chance to learn from afar. Now, I know that might sound crazy, but, you take a look at Patrick Mahomes. You saw what that 1 year of him sitting behind, I think, Alex Smith did for him. before CJ Stroud, we was dealing with Davis Mills, and every time Davis Mills got benched, he comes back and put together a couple great games, and it's like, okay, we see something in Davis. But going back to CJ Stroud, rookie minicamp, he didn't look great. So it's like, okay, let's see how he's grow from rookie minicamp to OTAs. We see some growth. OTAs to training camp. We see some growth. I remember in training camp, this man had a problem with turnovers. I remember there was a day he committed, I want to say like 5 turnovers, and he threw 5 interceptions. And it's like, okay, well, he's a young quarterback. He's going to learn. But it was just the consistent growth that I've seen from that young man ever since mid-May all the way up until January. And it's like when Coach D'Amico Ryans, Bobby Slowick, his teammates, everybody, the quarterback coach, Gerard Johnson, I just spoke to him a couple days ago. When they say CJ doesn't make the same mistake twice, that is part of the reason why we're sitting here looking at one of the best rookie quarterbacks of all time.
Stay up to date all year on the Houston Texans by subscribing to Locked On Sports Today and Locked On Texans on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Thanks for making Locked On Sports Today your first listen. Coming up, the Bills and Dolphins vied for the AFC East title. Before we get to that, the Eagles are dead before the playoffs even start. The NFL regular season is wrapping up, but there's still time to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. Win or lose, $150 in bonus bets, and you don't even have to win. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, what are you waiting for? The app is easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, teasers, and more. There's also weekly promos and boosts to give you plenty of opportunities to increase your payout. But the playoffs set, the 49ers are FanDuel's favorite to win the Super Bowl, plus 230. Right behind them, the Ravens, plus 330. Then there's a pretty big gap. Cowboys, plus 750. The Bills at 8-1, and the Chiefs at 9-1. Everyone else longer than 10-1 to win this Super Bowl. You can also combine bets for a bigger payout, same game parlays, a great way to enjoy watching sports. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and do the NFL season right. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today, here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. The Philadelphia Eagles, well, they laid an egg. Seriously, after that loss to the Giants, there is no team with less momentum going into the playoffs.
27-10, the final score. The Eagles 11-6 to end the 2023 season. Second in the NFC East. They blew it yet again today. At one point, we're alive and could have won the division, could have been the 2 seed. They are not. They are 1-5 in their last 6 games. And that none of that matters. They're dead to me. Like, yes, they're going to play the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in the playoffs. There's still a playoff game to be had. Looks like it's going to be on Monday night next week. But I just don't even want to talk about that right now because the nightmare continued today against the Giants. I'm not in shock. I am in shock. I don't want to say I can't believe that we're back in the spot that the Eagles are in right now. But I'm kind of in shock that we are back. Like, I've seen crazier things in sports and with this football team, but I would have never predicted this team would be back to where, like, if you wanted to prove that time is a circle, then look at the Philadelphia Eagles.
The Saints dominated the Falcons, but still missed the postseason. The future ain't all bad on the Big Easy, though.
Where was all of this during the earlier portion of the season? But they needed to do something out here to close out the season to give some optimism going into the offseason because not everybody has been totally optimistic about what this team has looked like throughout the year and has been, I think, deservedly critical when it comes to what this team has been in terms of its inconsistencies, ups and downs, all those other things. But let's focus on what it is that got the New Orleans Saints their big 48-17 win here in New Orleans. Let's start off with Derek Carr, who played a phenomenal game. 22 of 28, completing over 78% of his passes, 264 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, no interceptions in this game. You could see the trust that has continued to develop between him and the younger receivers that are on this team. A.T. Perry with 2 touchdowns touchdown catches, Chris Olave with a touchdown catch, Rashid Shaheed with a touchdown catch as well. So you can see the sort of communication, you could see sort of the familiarity finally starting to pay off between Derek Carr and these New Orleans Saints wide receivers, which is big because, look, there's a very good chance that Chris Olave, Rashid Shaheed, and A.T. Perry are wide receivers 1, 2, and 3 going into next season.
Plus, beignets and hand grenades, Bourbon Street, they'll be all right. The AFC North will feature all winning teams after the Bengals stomp the Browns' second stringers.
There's something to be said, Jake, about, and I love the draft position, and I would much rather they could have drafted 13th if things broke their way this week and they had lost this game. There was no way in hell they were losing this game. I don't know how they would have, because the way the Browns trotted their guys out, I mean, it would have been really tough to lose this game. They could have never played Jamar, never played Mixon, never played Hendrickson. I guess the one thing, if you don't play that offensive line, your starting offensive line, then it changes, which we saw when they did pull their starters.
Right. The guys that got into the game in the fourth quarter, maybe that's a competitive game.
Maybe it is, but it's still, you'd have to really try then to in that scenario to lose. And so I do think finishing 9-8 and with third straight winning season, I think there's something to be said for that. I also think that this division is just insane.
And over on the hardwood, the Pelicans cannot be stopped. Just ask the Kings.
The Pelicans beat the Sacramento Kings in dominant fashion, 133-100. They were up by as many as 50 points in this one. This is the 5th win in a row over the Sacramento Kings this season. This was just utterly dominant. The Pelicans did everything you wanted to see from them in this game. And after the loss to the Los Angeles Clippers, where they looked like they really struggled, it was a 111-95 point loss. To come back and bounce back like this tells you a lot about this team.
The Buffalo Bills had a bit of a roller coaster year, but needed to win on Sunday to clinch the AFC East. There had also been scenarios where they just weren't in the playoffs at all when the day started if they lost. The Miami Dolphins had the same chance at the AFC East. As for the winner, well, Kyle Krabs from Locked On Dolphins has more on that one.
Where do we get started other than feeling like it's Groundhog Day here on Locked On Dolphins? Not just, well, you lost to the Buffalo Bills. It happens, right? Pretty routinely with this football team and this era of the team. You had special teams miscues. You had a 2-minute offense situation that yielded a turnover. You had the Dolphins offense finding rousing success rushing the football in the first half, only to completely abandon the idea of running the football in the second half. You have injuries to the edge group. You have Tyreek Hill failing to complete what would have been a tough catch, but a catch nonetheless on that 2-minute offense opportunity. All the same storylines that have been storylines for the Dolphins and kind of question marks and concerns once again reared their head as the Dolphins lost to Buffalo by a final score of 21-14. It was another near loss for Miami, but you don't get consolation prizes for near losses, and certainly not in the AFC East standings. The Dolphins finished with the same record as the Bills, but lost to the Bills twice in head-to-head. And their reward for that is a short week. They will play on Saturday night at 8 p.m. in frigid Kansas City against the defending Super Bowl champions in weather that is forecasted to be around 10 degrees plus wind chill. So, great. Welcome to the postseason, the Miami Dolphins. I think the frustrating thing about this game for the Dolphins was the first half was largely everything that you would have hoped it would have been. You got several turnovers. You got 3 turnovers off Josh Allen, plus the turnover on downs on the final play of the first half for Miami. They took a 7-point lead into halftime and just offensively came out and could not do anything with the football. Scoring 14 points in this game with how you moved the ball and how you ran the ball effectively in the first half is pretty unacceptable. And that's the storyline of this game, because the defense gave up 14 points, and 14 of those points came on a tipped sky ball that shot up into the night. and managed to get hauled in by Trent Sherfield. Of course, it was a former Miami Dolphin that caught it, of all people, to put the Bills on the board. You got 3 turnovers. You held the Bills offensively to 14 points. You got a stop on 4th down right at the 2-minute warning to give you your offense the ball back and an opportunity to go down and tie the game. Considering you didn't have Xavier Howard, and you didn't have Bradley Chubb, and you didn't have Jalen Phillips, and Andrew Van Ginkel goes down in this game, and Cameron Good gets carted off with an air cast on his leg. It's an admirable effort from your defensive unit. And you were on pace to score 28 points, and you put a goose egg up in just about every facet offensively in the second half of this football game. And that is why the Dolphins are in this position that they are once again in. And it's a hard pill to swallow.
Stay up to date all year on the Miami Dolphins by subscribing to Locked On Sports today and Locked On Dolphins on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. Coming up, Jordan Love is him in Green Bay. In Week 18 a year ago, Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers had the chance to play an NFC North division rival who had nothing on the line but pride. On the line for the Green Bay Packers, a trip to the postseason. That's what they do in Green Bay. They always go to the playoffs, except the Lions went into Lambeau Field, shut down Aaron Rodgers in a season where he was already pretty checked out, and the Packers lost. It was a passing of the torch moment in the NFC North, or at least it seemed like it was. Within a few months, Aaron Rodgers was packed for New Jersey, and the Packers were moving on with Jordan Love. Fast forward almost a year. Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers faced an NFC North rival playing for nothing but pride, while Green Bay had a chance to make the postseason if they won. With those stakes, Jordan Love went 27 of 32 for 316 and 2 touchdowns. He had 2 other touchdowns dropped on Sunday. No Christian Watson in this game. He's dealing with a hamstring injury. Luke Musgrave, the rookie phenom tight end, coming back from a lacerated kidney, was not at full strength. And then they lose Romeo Doubs one drive into the game. It didn't matter. Bo Melton, Dontavian Wicks, guys you've never heard of, guys whose names you might think I just made up on the spot. I promise both of those guys were a big part of the offense in this game. Wicks, a day 3 pick, a day 3 rookie, catches a pair of touchdowns. It was Tucker Kraft, a 3rd-round rookie, who caught the clinching 3rd down pass that ultimately sets up Aaron Jones. He gets the game-winning run. This season was supposed to be all about the Bears rising to the occasion. Justin Fields would ascend with all of the investment made in Chicago. And yet, at the end of this season, the Packers are headed to the playoffs. The Bears are wondering what to do at quarterback, except they're not really wondering. 16 passes in a game, you're behind the whole game. You're telling us what you think of your quarterback. The Bears are moving on. Meanwhile, in this game against the Chicago Bears, Jordan Love completed a 4,000-yard passing season in his first as an NFL starter. Do you know how many quarterbacks in Chicago Bears history have thrown for 4,000 yards? 0. Not one. So it is fitting that Jordan Love would write his name in the annals of Packer history against the Chicago Bears for the rivalry's sake. It is fitting that he would do it in the final week of the season, his first as a starter against the division rival, something Aaron Rodgers could not do, to put together an even better statistical season than Aaron Rodgers had in his first season as a starter, and that he would do it against a team that his predecessor, the 4-time MVP, the all-time great, was famous for once saying, "I own you. I still own you. All my life, I own you." It looks like the deed transferred. Jordan Love, You're in charge now. And now the Packers get to play the Cowboys this weekend in a stadium where Aaron Rodgers has never lost, including a Super Bowl win. We'll see if the deed transfers on that one too. And finally, SEC Commissioner George Sankey is disappointed that we didn't like the final college football playoff rankings. I think some of the statements made in the immediacy of selection were disappointing to me as a colleague, and I would maintain that the strength of the SEC, sure, we lost some games, but as I look at where were the 4 best teams, I would maintain that we had 2 of those 4. But again, the selection committee makes that decision, and we respect that decision, he said. To clarify, Sankey believes the SEC should have had 1 more team in the playoff, but also believes the playoff committee was correct in their picks. Right. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel. Coming up on the next Locked On Sports Today, is everyone picking the Eagles to lose in the first round or just me? So at least until tomorrow, stay locked on sports today.
Locked On Podcast Network presents Locked On Sports Today.
For more episodes of Locked On Sports Today, go to our video on demand. Click on Sports at the top of your screen. There, you'll find past episodes of Locked On Sports Today, plus other Locked On shows on demand.